This next video comes from Benjamin. Thanks for your donation, Benjamin. It's concerning females, and some of the questions he asks are, caring for females. What are things that you should be doing from the start? How are they different from males? How do we prepare them uh, when they come into heat? Uh, Both when we do not want to breed them and when we do want to breed them. As far as the upkeep and care of females, it's not much different from a male. You know, you want to have living quarters, clean living quarters. You want to have your setup prepared. If you're getting a female puppy or a male puppy or a grown dog, you want to have an area specifically for them. Whether it's one dog or 10 dogs, each dog should have their own living quarters. If it's a dog you want to keep inside, then you just have to take some precautions that it's not going to get loose and get outside. Uh, Whether the dog will attack something or not, a lot of times when they get outside, they'll just take off. They go roaming around and they they go see what's going on. You know, it's part of their nature to go. Males mark their territory, or male or female, look and see where they live or what's around, or just check things out. You know, Pit bulls especially are good at being escape artists. So even though sometimes you think you're the area they're in, whether it's a pen or a kennel run or even some chain hookups, you know, and inside the house too, you may think it's secure. The dogs sometimes show you they're not. There's an old saying: if a dog wants to get loose, it'll get loose. Even from, I've seen them get loose from people will double collar them sometimes, and they just yank their head out. They'll halfway choke themselves to get out. So you got to be mindful of them. You got to keep your eye on them. You got to check them. Sometimes you got to stand off to the side where they can't see you, or around the corner of your house or something where they can't see you, and check out their behavior. Whether they're exhibiting that behavior that, hey, they're trying to get loose or they're trying to get out of a pen. If it's a dirt floor in a kennel run, they'll dig out. If the top is not secured, they'll climb the fence and jump out. If it is secured, sometimes they still can get out. They'll get in between the boards or whatever top you have. They have to be really secured. Uh, they have to have ample sized doghouse. I suggest wood. That's what most people use. Those igloos are not good depending on the weather. A sky kennel is not an adequate doghouse, which I've seen online a lot. Those are not. They need a doghouse, something that can withstand weather, something that can withstand the dog jumping off and on of it, or the chain banging around, or sometimes they tip it over, push it over, chew on it, whatever. So the living quarters itself, the doghouse itself, has to be durable. Sometimes I've seen people that will even chain their dog inside a kennel run just for extra security. The dog can still get around, can still move around in and out of its house, up on top of its house, and not. Sometimes they'll hang, um, hides or something, or ropes or something, just so give the dog something to do while it's in there to keep it busy. Because that confinement can mess with their head, just being confined like that. If you ever been in the old school, gone to the old school zoos, and you go check out the wolves or the foxes, you'll see that they had them in very small living quarters, and they would pace back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. That's just what happened when their mind's being messed with because they're confined. It's like being in jail or prison. It does things to your mind. And that's what happened to them wild animals. Once they understood and had the funds to correct it, then they give them bigger living spaces. And rather than living by themselves, especially wolves and coyotes, they had them in a pack, where they could interact with other animals of their species, kind of emulate the wild as much as they can, and they started doing that with a lot of the zoo animals rather than having them confined. Even the Fresno Zoo where I live, they have a big space now where they have giraffe and elephants together, just like they would be in Africa, you know. So that's the thing with confinement with dogs. Uh, if you do have to have them confined because of laws or because of where you live, you don't have a lot of room, a lot of yard space, then I suggest regular exercise. And more so if they're confined to a kennel or inside your home 24 hours a day for the most part. They're going to have to be let out to go to the bathroom. You're going to have to exercise them more so than just for their health and development, muscle development and bone development and all that, because being confined to that space, they don't move around, so they don't grow properly. So those are some of the things that's similar with with males and females both. They should have be up to date on all their shots. They should be parasite free and dewormed regularly. You should figure out what kind of diet you're going to feed them, a well balanced diet consisting mainly of protein and fat, animal protein and fat. Some people use vegetable protein, which it's good, legumes and stuff like rice or something like that, beans. The difference between animal protein and that type of protein, the biggest difference is with vegetative protein, you have to feed them a lot more than you do animal protein. And it's a different kind of protein, so you guys can do your research and find out what the difference is. Canines are predators, so I fed mine animal meat, you know. And moving on to, let's say you have a female coming in heat, and whether you want to breed her or not, you should have a proper setup where if you're going to breed her, then only to the male that you want to breed her to. If you're not going to breed her, you need to protect her from some stray dog or coyote or something coming, depending on where you live, coming around and breeding her, right? So again, there you have to have a secure area. And you'll notice some of the old pictures in the past where you see these dogmen where they have these raised kennels. They're about 4 foot up, and they keep their females in there. A lot of that is depending on where they live. Some of it is to keep snakes out, keep rodents and all that away from pups and all that stuff. But mostly it's so that they don't get bred by some strange dog, some loose dog. Because like I said before, where a dog, if it wants to get out of a pen, a lot of times they will get out of a pen. So a female, if she wants to breed, she will figure out a way to get bred, and and a stray dog or a loose dog, even one of your dogs on his yard that gets loose, they'll figure out a way to get bred. If you have them on the chain like that, even though you think you're protected because your dogs are aggressive and they don't let anything come on the yard, a stray dog will get in there and breed them. If you just have a pen with the sides, fencing on the side, they can breed through that pen. They'll do it. If you have them inside, loose inside your house, they'll do anything, even break through a window to get bred. So what I would do is I had a special pen outside where nothing could get to them. And if the weather was cold in wintertime, what we did is my wife fixed up the bottom of the pantry inside the house, and that's where the females stayed while they were coming in heat, during their heat cycle, while they were being bred and whelping their pups. And every female we had went through that, because I've had those accidents where some stray breeds them. You think you're protected, you think you got it covered. Maybe you don't take advice from older guys, and you think you got it made and you know what you're doing. Don't. just think that where there's a will, there's a way. And whether you're going to breed them or not, but especially if you're going to breed them, you want to, what I did was as soon as they started coming in heat, I would put them, if I was going to breed them, I'd put them on that heat, what I called like a heat food, a whelping food or a pregnancy food. So whatever additives I was going to give them, I would start them on that. I also made sure I deloused them, defleed them, dewormed them. And some people will even give a shot of some type of antibiotic just to make sure they're cleaned out. You want them kind of flushed out, as it were, cleaned out with the dewormer, with the delousing. Uh, you know, some of the things I would add to their feed would be beef, organ meat like liver. We usually, we barbecued a lot back then, so we always had tri-tips around. And if you buy the right tri-tips, they come real fatty. And they have that extra iron. So I would give them beef. Even though in keep, sometimes I didn't feed beef. For pregnant females, I always gave them beef. And along with beef, organ meat like liver and anything, kidneys, whatever was left over, the organ meat. Sometimes it's tripe, kidney, liver, pancreas, all kinds of stuff. We butchered animals a lot, so we always had some use for that. I didn't eat a lot of that stuff, but my different members of my family did. Some of it I did eat, some of it I didn't. But the stuff that I didn't eat, I just give it to my dogs, And so I would have them totally cleaned out. The other thing too, if you're going to breed them, and this is just general, but especially if you're going to breed them, they need regular exercise. It's a known fact that women that stay healthy and exercise before, during, and during their pregnancy produce healthier babies, and it makes the labor easier on them, right? And some people give them an antibiotic even during that gestation period because to help fight, in case there's any case of mastitis. And that's one of the main reasons for keeping their area clean, is because if their teeth get dirty or they can get an infection, and that's what mastitis is, and it causes a lot of problems, So I'd have them cleaned out, get them on their pregnancy feed, and then their area too. Now, there's different kinds of way setups to have for females that are going to whelp. What I used was gondola that they use for picking grapes. I forget the size, but it's well over 4x4. It might be 4x4 or 5x5, 6x6, but it's a big box. And then I would nail 2x4s about that high off the bottom. So the bottom of the whelping box is here, 2x4 is here, and you nail it all the way around secure them all the way around the box. And what that does, it helps the female prevent her from laying on her pups or smashing them up against the side of the wall. If she happens to do that, the pup slides under there, doesn't get smashed, and the female doesn't kill her own pup accidentally. The surface, if possible, if the weather permits, it's best not to have anything on the surface. Just leave it like that, blank, nothing. It's easier to clean, less chance of the pups getting something in them or on them. But if I did put something, it was rather than using blankets or chips, wood chips or straw or anything like that. You can use those, but I didn't like it because the pups are always getting stuff, and it's hard to clean off and all that. So I just use newspaper. Newspaper doesn't hurt them. The printer's ink doesn't hurt them. It's an easy cleanup. I wouldn't recommend using carpet, because if you clean the carpet, depending on what you use, you'd have to wait for it to be completely dry. And everybody knows how hard it is for the carpet to dry. They could get some reaction from the chemicals. I've seen pups go blind from that, from the ammonia or bleach or whatever it is you're using. So if possible, Don't use anything on the surface of the whelping box. And if you use something, I found it best to use newspaper, just torn up newspaper. It's cheap, basically free. You can get them almost anywhere, and less of a problem of any accidents happening. So you want your female healthy. You want her fed properly. I also gave, sometimes I use NutriCal. It's a supplement that you can use. It'll put weight on a dog real fast. I use that during aftercare too, or after rolls, after shows like that, because it puts weight on them right. It brings them back quicker. Gives them a lot of energy. It'd be like giving them a B12 shot almost, you know. We had a doctor here in town, that was his standard injection for people that had the flu. It didn't cure the flu or your common cold or common flu, but what it does is it gives you energy. It just makes you feel better, a B12 shot. So that NutriCal has that, Red Cell has it. Some people use injectable, a little bit of it, 1 cc or whatever, just for that, have the dog feeling better, and give them that boost of energy. I also used beef tallow, especially in the winter time. I just cooked it down to where, uh, you know, you have little bitty chunks of it, plus you have the liquid fat of it being cooked down. You can store it. You have to warm it up. You can kind of give it to them like that, or it doesn't take much to just warm it up a little bit. Even if you leave it out till it hits room temperature, put it in their food, they'll lap it up like crazy. Stuff like that. But the exercise part, I think, is very important. Most people, they want the pups to be healthy, so you do have to feed the female more, because the pups are going to need those nutrients. But if you pork the food to her and you don't do nothing with her, she's just fat. She's heavy. And with the pups in her, it's hard for her to deliver. It's hard for her to move around. So that exercise should come with it. And all I did in the beginning was I increased their feed by a quarter of the amount, total food. And then as I went, I might be, as I went along, I would increase it more as needed, until I felt that that was enough for her size, for her being pregnant, for the exercise I was giving them, Even my wife followed that. She never stood still when she was pregnant. She'd always be doing something. They nest, they clean stuff up. Females will do that too. They'll start fixing their area up and nesting and like this, And if you're not going to breed them, all those precautions should still be met. The main thing is, if you're not going to breed them, have some secluded. Even if you have to have them in the house and you have to keep them in a crate, and if you go to work and you got to leave them there for a while, do the same thing. You're going to exercise them, but you're going to take them out a few times a day. It's only for a couple of weeks. So if it's a hassle for you, 2 or 3 weeks, twice a year, I don't know what to tell you. That's nothing, But if you are going to breed them, they need that extra food and that extra exercise, Just a lot of it is common sense, The feed, you can, again, generally the kibble I was feeding, that's what I fed them when I gave them extra food, whatever it was, whether it was rice or the type of vegetable that was in there, the greens that were in there. The only thing I did different was beef. But my dogs had beef throughout their life, because we give them beef scraps anyways, and big beef bones, those are good. They need extra calcium and all that stuff. And just like I said, a balanced meal. The more you interact with the female, the less likely she's going to be aggressive towards you, or if you have kids or whoever, when she's coming in labor, when she's coming, starting to deliver, Sometimes they need help. Sometimes they need help getting the pup out. Angie was good about that. She'd just get her fingers in there. Sometimes they have a breech pup, again, she just get in there and yank them out, you know. Sometimes the female doesn't take the bag off properly, uh, and if it's not taken off within a certain amount of time, uh, the pup will suffocate. Sometimes the umbilical cord is not completely cut, so you just snip it, They might need help. Most don't, because it's natural for them to be good mothers. It's a natural instinct. But if they're very young, then they might need some help. Just like teenage girls, They've never been through it. They're not mature mentally to deal with it. So they might need some help. But if you don't spend that time, if you ain't close to them, if the dog doesn't trust you, even your favorite dog, your baby, you raised it and all that stuff, sometimes they act funny when they have pups. But if they're used to you being around and kids being around and touching them and rubbing on them, rub their belly and all that, give them all this attention, I've never had one that turned on me or showed aggression. In fact, they appreciated the help that Angie would give them during that delivery time. And especially if they have a bunch of pups, if it's just a couple, it's not that bad. If they have 6, 7, 8, 9, it's a that's why they call it labor. It's hard work doing that, and sometimes the females need some help. Another reason for having the big whelping box is they need room to move around, and they need room, especially early on when the pups are eating a lot, just to get away from them for a little bit, even if it's just a few feet. If they're too confined, that's when you have problems with them stepping on them and becoming frustrated with them, maybe biting them or laying on them. If they have room to get away, it'd be like having a bassinet. Most women will have their babies right there with them, but you need a rest. So they'll put them in the bassinet right next to them in the bed. The baby's right there. They can watch it. Same thing with the females. They just need 3 or 4 feet to get away, go lay down for a minute while the pups are sleeping, get a break from them. They start waking up, making noise. They go back and they feed them. That's the reason why I had a big gondola like that. So hopefully this helped, Benjamin, and feel free to comment, and anyone else too. Hopefully some tips help you if you weren't aware. If not, comment, add something to it. I always appreciate the comments. Maybe something I missed, or you did things different, or something I didn't cover, or maybe even things I wasn't aware of. Maybe there's other nutrients or medicines or things to help them. I've heard people give them something to help them in labor and all stuff like that. I didn't do that. Everything was pretty natural, but that doesn't mean those drugs or supplements or whatever it is they're giving them doesn't help. I just wasn't aware of them, and I didn't use them. And now, since there's so much information out there, a lot of it, there's easy access to it, and it could help you. Do all the study. Always look at the information. Look at top to bottom, side to side, all the way around. Don't just go to the first thing, read it, and that's all the information you get. There's tons of information. And like I said, I get a lot of mine, I like reading it from the Mayo Clinic and from Merck Veterinary Clinic. They have a lot of information on different things. You just Google it. So, thanks for listening.